So we're just stretching after Kathy's presentation. So phenomenal. There are no coincidences. I really feel like this event and the women here, through their intent and through their action, will change the world. And that's what Sovereign Women is all about. And I just want to acknowledge Kathy again for all the work she's done for women in whatever version of her she's been in her lifetime. That's always been at her heart, and just as importantly, in her action. Thank you, Kathy. So it is no coincidence. The Divine Mother, I think, laid out the schedule perfectly. And I just honor that I'm a good transcriptionist. Thea Summer Deer is probably one of the most profound creatrixes I have ever known on this earth. Her vast knowledge, embodiment, translation, and transmission quality blesses more people than she even knows. As a phenomenal musician, an incredible teacher, a leader wherever she steps, I can talk to you about the things on the website, but they nowhere begin to truly give you an understanding of the depth of the well of her being that she brings. She is a dear sister of mine, and I'm just lucky to be able to say that. Thea Summer Deer, also known as Thea Stacy, is a clinical herbalist, author, and educator. She holds a doctorate in philosophy and shamanic psychospiritual studies. Her involvement in alternative and holistic medicine spans 40 years, and I don't know how many lifetimes. I'm just going to add that in there. And she currently teaches energetic medicine at an herbal medicine schools, conferences, and online. She is the author of The Wisdom of the Plant Devas. If you have not seen that book or read it, I cannot recommend it enough. The rest, I'm going to say the title again, Wisdom of the Plant Devas, Herbal Medicine for a New Earth. She has released 5 recordings as an award-winning singer-songwriter. And you can learn more about Thea at theasummerdeer.com.
Ooh, Judy, you're gonna make me cry. I love you so much, and I'm so honored that, we've been able to work together in the ways that we have over the last number of years, and this is just a real honor. Ooh, what a powerful portal we are in. And I will share my screen here in a minute, but I just want to say thank you again, and that when I heard that the title that you came up with for this event, Sovereign Women Living the New Earth Vision, I just said, how perfect, because the sovereignty, I believe, is the next horizon of our human evolution. And New Earth, I mean, the subtitle of my book is Herbal Medicine for a New Earth. And so, yes, those are 2 subjects that are very close to my heart. And today I'm going to be sharing with you to help you to empower yourself to heal yourself and to know and believe that this is possible. And the plant medicines are a part of that. And I also want to say that the thing that inspired my book, those of you who have read it know that it was giving blood to the ground, like Kathy just shared with us. That opens portals, and that opened the portal for that book to be birthed. And so you can read that story of how that happened, but that was how it happened, was in a ceremonially offering that, the portal that opened, the information that came through, and the channelings that came through that are part of that book. So yeah, no accident, Judy. You transcribe very well from spirit. So let me go in here and share my screen. See, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. We try now? Okay, there we go. All right. So I'm going to share that. Let me get into a bigger view of it. All right, so hopefully that's what you're seeing on your screen. And hopefully my arrows will make it go where it needs to go. So yeah, very close to my heart. Really excited to get to share with you today. I'm going to share some concepts that are important for you to understand when working with plant medicines. And then I'm going to lead us on a virtual plant walk so you can actually meet some of the medicine plants and learn about their medicines and hear some of their stories. And I want to make sure to have enough time at the end for questions so that I can know what's moving in you right now, because I know there's a lot up for people right now with regards to healing on many levels. So, I personally believe that if we're going to move into new earth sovereignty, then taking back our power from a mechanistic medical model is essential. And that one of the ways that we can do this is through healing the disconnect with nature and working with herbal medicines. None of us would be here today if it weren't for the plants and their medicines. Everything that we know about medicine, we learn from the plants, one way or the other. We learn from the plants. No surgery, no diagnosis or remedy would be accomplished without the evolution of knowledge acquired through our relationship with plants. For example, surgery requires drugs, which are derived from plants. Diagnostics takes observation, which was practiced by our ancestors. It's called empirical observation, in their observations of the natural world. And it's also called empirical data. And this is a whole data set that we are presently in danger of losing. And in the past, remedies that were appropriate were recommended based on these observations and adjusted to what worked and what didn't work. And this has all been accomplished through our relationship with plants, which takes time and trust and patience. And we live in a world that wants it quick and wants a quick fix and wants it now. But when we take the time to come into relationship with these plant medicines, what they achieve is phenomenal. And that's part of what I want to share with you. So remedies that are based on observation, diagnosis, and prescription are part of a medical model that originated in folk medicine. And folk medicine, or natural medicine, relies on a working knowledge of plants. Folk medicine is the people's medicine. This is medicine that is accessible, it's understood by the lay person, and it's the primary medicine for most of the people on the planet right now. And it's given to us for free. Mother Earth does not charge us to go receive from her. And there's no accident that the plants heal us in the way that they do, because they have evolved concurrently with us. reading our chemistries. So, when we give that blood back to the earth, everything that Kathy just talked about with being that conduit and how we inform the earth reads our chemistry, and the plants adjust their chemistry to keep us whole and in harmony and in balance and in good health. We are utterly dependent on plants for all of our basic needs. If you just think about that for a minute, our shelter, our fuel, fossil fuels from the decayed plants that eventually turned into oil, our clothing, the cotton that makes our clothing, our medicine, because our food is our medicine and it grows out of the earth. So our medicine and our food, we're completely dependent on plants. And the more that we try to synthesize it from non-renewable resources, as resources are running out, which they don't need to do if we were managing our resources, but we keep wanting to create synthetic versions of things, everything from polyester to artificial intelligence. And well, let me just say it this way. We're being given a huge opportunity to learn just how interconnected and dependent we are on natural systems. So I'd like to just start with this brief prayer because I'm so humbled by the power of these medicines. So if you would with me just for one moment. I bow to the plants who have healed my body and speak through me because I too am made of earth. I bow to the plants whose voices may be heard by those who benefit. I give gratitude for the natural world that has the power to heal and transform, and of which we are a part. Great hope for our future lies in our ability to trust inner guidance in connection with this natural world of which I speak. I am connected. I am grateful. I am whole. I bow to the plants. Whew. I just want to reiterate this statement because it's become my my power statement, if you will, that great hope for the future lies in our ability to trust inner guidance and connection to the natural world, which has the power to heal and transform. And we are a world in need of transformation. So I want to talk about models of healing because, and I also would invite you to take notes if because I want, as questions come up or thoughts come up or just information comes up, you might want to take some notes. And the reason it's important to talk about the models of healing is because we are mostly operating right now in a mechanistic model. And so what happens is when people hear that I'm an herbalist, they come up to me and they go, "Oh, you're an herbalist. I've been taking this pharmaceutical and I really want to get off of it. And I know that something natural would be better. What can I take?" So it's a this for that kind of thing. What can I take for that would be better than a pharmaceutical? And this is thinking within the mechanistic box because that's not how herbal medicine works. Herbal medicine is an energetic model. And the way that it works, and it's not better to take an herb that could possibly replace a pharmaceutical, but the longest lasting results from herbal medicine is from its tonic ability to restore whole bodily systems. And a tonic is something that's taken consistently over time. And it brings you into relationship with your medicine. So you prepare maybe you're growing it and harvesting it and preparing it and tasting it and swallowing it and digesting it and eliminating it. So there's a whole relationship that you come into. So it helps to heal the disconnect. And over time, it recalibrates the system. So it's not just, instead of this pill, give me this pill. And I'll explain more about that in the stages of healing. I think I have that in this presentation. But anyway, I just think it's important to understand what model we're in, because when we're in one model, all of our reference points are in that model and we can't see beyond that. So this is a challenge to expand our vision as to what else is possible. All of these models have strengths and weaknesses. And ultimately, our evolution toward a new earth requires integrating these models. And we hear a lot of talk about integrative medicine, but we need a truly integrative model, not just one model trying to assimilate the other model, mostly for profit. So I'm just going to very briefly go through some of these characteristics of some of these models. And it's a way of thinking. So in these models, it's a way of thinking that underlies the use of any form of healing. And we may be influenced by some aspect of each of these at different times or even at the same time. So what are those strengths and weaknesses? So the heroic model predates the mechanistic model. And the heroic healer's tools are often complicated and proprietary formulas. In other words, they're the magician that has the secret, formula that, you could never possibly understand what that is. So they're going to disseminate that to you. And we know that today as proprietary formulas, right? Where you don't get to know what's in it. Another aspect of the heroic model is if you're sick, it's your fault. It's that you not only did something bad, ate something wrong, lived a bad lifestyle, whatever. It's not that you did something bad, it's that you are bad. You had the wrong thought. You ate the wrong thing. You need a savior. And in rides the heroic healer. And it also sees illness as being caused by toxins, whether it's of the body, mind, or spirit. And these must be detoxified or purged. So you'll see a lot of that in the heroic model. When you see people going on cleanses and doing this kind of thing, you'll know that that's the heroic model. And it goes as far back as ideas such as bloodletting or leeches that would suck the poison out of your poisonous blood. If our blood were poisonous, we wouldn't be alive. It also is about removing curses. So whatever that toxin, whatever that curse, whatever that poison is, it has to be cleansed. And again, we see it today in the use of fasting and colonics and strict diets. So the strength of that is that it's fast acting and it gives symptomatic relief. The weakness of it is that it may cause weakness, and it can cause a healing crisis. And it can also contribute to rigid thinking and inflexibility. And again, I preface this by saying we need an integrative model. There's strengths and weaknesses to all of these. The mechanistic model is also known as the scientific tradition. It is a reductionist viewpoint. Nature becomes mechanized, bodies are machines. Anything that deviates from the normal needs to be fixed. And drugs are what ensure normalcy. Normal is defined by narrow parameters that are numbers. So people are now seen as being numbers. And we're looking at the numbers and not at the people. And I'll just give you one example. I mean, there's so many, but One example would be a woman going past her due date. Every woman has a different cycle. Some it's every 28 days, somebody it might be 32 days. That's going to affect how long she gestates. When somebody's telling you, this is when you're supposed to have the baby, it's the baby that triggers the hormones that start labor. When you tell a woman you're past your dates, you have to have a cesarean section. Now that's why we see one of the reasons we're seeing such high maternal morbidity. So that's an example of looking at what's considered normal instead of the individual. The mechanistic model defines truth as measurable and repeatable. And so herbs are reduced to their most active part, which is their constituent. So we will take that one constituent and create standardized extracts, which is a good thing. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. But we also lose the synergy of the plant, the intelligence of the plant. These plants have system affinities, and they know where to go and what to do and what receptors to open and what receptors to close. They're very intelligent. But when we start to work with, just the constituent, then it becomes drug-like. But the reason that standardized extracts are important is, and why we need an integrative model, is I'll just give you an example of a woman who had mastitis, and it had gotten so bad that they said, we're going to have to do surgery. And she was in a lot of pain. It's very painful. She had tried a lot of things, and it had been going on for quite a while. And so she was a couple of days away from surgery when she got referred to me. And I said to her, try poke root. It'll clear it in about 24 hours to 48 hours. So she ended up getting some poke root from a neighbor who had made it in the folk method. And she called me about a day and a half later and said, it's not working. And I said, tell me what you're taking. Tell me what brand you're taking. She said, oh no, a neighbor made it. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what that, I'm giving you a dosage that's a standardized dosage, but I don't know what that is for something that somebody just made at home. I don't know what the strength of it is or what the menstruum is or anything. Go to the health food store, and I should have done this to begin with, the health food store, get this brand, call me back tomorrow. It cleared it within 48 hours, and she never had to have surgery, and it never came back. So we need an integrative model. So mechanistic tools are drugs and surgery. Its strengths are diagnostics, trauma medicine, pain management. Its weakness is that it's pathology oriented. It doesn't focus on any kind of disease prevention. It's unable to address underlying causes of chronic illnesses or degenerative diseases or hormone imbalance. The energetic model, which is what I teach and what I work in, is a gestalt view. So we went from the mechanistic reductionist view to a gestalt view, where we're seeing and that's an Eastern view. So the Western mind, this is why we need whole brain thinking and an integrative model. So the Eastern mind sees it as a gestalt. And an example of that would be when a baby's born and it looks at the mother's face and bonds. It is not seeing 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, and 2 ears. It's seeing the whole picture as a gestalt. We see art as a gestalt. So the person is seen as a whole. And this model studies and recognizes patterns and relationships. We say homotakwias in all my relations. Healing takes place in the context of relationship. It supports the body as a self-cleansing, self-healing mechanism, which eliminates all of the side effects of Western drugs. The strength is that it restores systems, like I mentioned earlier, and it treats the underlying causes of deficiencies and excesses. The weakness of it is that it is inappropriate for some kinds of acute problems and trauma, injury. If you got a broken arm, you want to go to the emergency room and get mechanistic medicine. Not that we can't also help that to heal quicker within the energetic model with herbal medicine. So I also just wanted to add to that well, let's talk about the wise woman tradition, because we're all wise women here. And this is the oldest tradition in the world. And where we had a reductionist view, then we had a Gestalt view. In the wise woman tradition, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So it takes it to a whole other level. We are already whole. We are already perfect in our imperfection. There are no diseases, no cures, and no healers. It focuses on the person and not the problem, and on self-healing, not the healing of others. It focuses not on eliminating the bad, but on nourishing the wholeness, the holiness. There's no guilt, there's no blame, there's no shame, there's no reason for why, and there's no answer to the why. And this makes me think of Isis, who I work with a lot. When we question us, like, why is this happening? Because I mean, that's a natural path of inquiry. And I'm always asking, why did this happen? So that maybe we could have done a different intervention, or maybe there was a different herb that might be better for it. But there's another level of this, and this is when I invoke Isis, and I see her rainbow wings just enfolding me, because it is what it is. ISIS is Isis. When we can be in the divine acceptance of what is, then what else could be possible? It's interesting to note that the World Health Organization says 90% of the healthcare provided in the world is given by women in their own homes. We can do this. The wise woman builds the health of herself first, and then that of her family, then her community, her country, her world. But much like the work of pregnancy, much like a pregnancy, it's the invisible work of women. When a woman is pregnant, her body is working very, very hard, but you don't see it. When a woman is in her home, nursing someone back to health, she's not paid for that. She's not recognized for that. 90% of women in the world. So we are powerful. We can change this whole paradigm from a sickness culture to a wellness culture, from sick care to health care. So in the wise woman tradition, all parts of the body, mind, and spirit are nurtured and nourished. The goddess allows all things. This is one of the takeaways that I got from the priestess process, was that the goddess allows all things. So now I would like to take us on a plant walk. And this was our beautiful event this past fall, where we got to be in North Georgia and walk in the woods together. And so a lot of the photos that you're going to see today were taken by myself or other participants who were on this walk, and the credits are there. So thank you for that, because I know some of you are here with us now. And it's really important to know what medicines grow locally. What is, our medicine is never any further than where you are right now. One of my mentors, Willie Whitefeather, said to me, look down, you're walking on your medicine. So knowing what is local to us is powerful, because this is the people's medicine. That means we're not dependent on, getting it shipped from another country, or it being out of stock. When we went through this, 2 years ago, there were herbs you couldn't get. What grows near you? What grows locally? Things happen to where we can't have access. Back in I think it was the early 70s, there was an embargo on Chinese herb imports. So that's why I'm going to stay local today. And all these plants are local to me, and maybe they're local to you. But I wanted to have that focus. And so I'm in the Southern Appalachians. I just want to drive home the importance of knowing the plants that are local to you, because I believe that creates greater sovereignty. I spent all of my childhood summers in these mountains, and I've been living here full-time for 24 years now. These are some of the oldest mountains in the world, and having survived the advance and the retreat of glaciers during the Ice Age, so they survived the Ice Age, and as a result, they've become a botanical treasure. I feel very, very blessed to live here, and I'm sure Spirit called me here full-time for a reason. So in beginning a plant walk, as we begin this walk together, I also want to emphasize the importance of ethical harvesting, which means that you only ever take what you need. This is something that could be translated into so many areas of our life. And you always leave enough for the plant to be able to propagate itself. And when we approach a plant, I bow to the plants, approach with reverence, and leave something in return. Once upon a time, I used to always carry a medicine bag that had tobacco in it, and I used to leave tobacco. Sometimes I'll still do that. But as I age, tobacco is very drying. As an herb, it's why it's, you can chew it and put it on a bee sting or something like that, and it pulls the toxins out. And as I age, we get drier as we age. So it just started to feel not as resonant for me. So what I leave now is, sometimes I'll just leave my breath, or sometimes, because I'm getting older, my hair falls out more easily, I might just leave a piece of my hair and just acknowledge the plant and thank it for its medicine. Because so often people just go, well, who are you and what can you do for me? Rather than just stopping to take a minute to, come into relationship with that plant. Let it tell you who it is and what it can do. Plants that are harvested, that grow locally and are harvested, also connect us with the spirit of that place. And I think this is important because we're talking about healing the disconnect with nature. So coming present with the spirit of place and resonating with the earth from which we are made. I mean, we have these movements, go local and eat local, and why not source our herbs locally? as much as we possibly can. And preparing wildcrafted medicines from an area where a person lives is 1,000 times more potent energetically than commercially prepared medicines. And I'm going to elaborate on that in a moment. But let's start with usnea. This is a magical plant, and I just want to keep aware of my time here. This is a lichen, and one of its common names is old man's beard, or I don't know, I'm starting to get some nanny hairs. Maybe we could rename it something with a feminine name, nanny beard or something. But anyway, botanical names are really important. Usnea barbata, because common names could be a different genus and species. So we have the genus name Usnea and the species name barbata. But when you're working with it as a medicine, you want to make sure you know what plant you're working with. So common names are great, but botanical names are important when you're using it for medicine. Plants have system affinities, and what I mean by that is whether it's the urinary tract system or the respiratory system or the cardiovascular system, they have system affinities. This plant has a system affinity with the lungs and the respiratory tract, which is important because of what a lot of people experience this time of year with the flu and bronchitis. And it is intolerant of air pollution. So it's kind of the canary in the coal mine, if you will. You can know the health of the forest that you're walking in by how vibrant this plant is. And you can see where we were, it was very vibrant. A little bit north of where I live here, if you went out, this would be much more, dry and browner. It wouldn't be so. This is a very flexible plant, and that's one of the ways that you positively identify it, is if you were to take one of those tendrils and just kind of scratch the surface away a little bit, underneath is a very elastic white band. And that's how you identify it. So it's very elastic, it's very alive, and it is actually used to analyze and measure the accumulation of airborne toxins. So scientists actually use this as a measure of the health of the air quality in certain areas of the forest. It's used to treat lung infections like pneumonia and bronchitis as a tincture. And it also can help to relieve underlying grief as a sun tea. And I'll just tell you a little story about that. So we know that grief is connected to the lungs. The emotion of grief corresponds in Chinese medicine with the metal element, which corresponds with the lungs. And, I live in Cherokee land. And so I was gathering this and putting it in spring water and making a sun tea with it and then setting in the sun and then drinking that water. And I was having a profound experience with it. I felt I was healing grief at the time. And so I posted something about that, and I became the laughing stock of the herbal community. Ha ha ha. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Everybody knows that usneic acid, which is the active constituent of usnea, is only extractable by alcohol. You can't get its medicine in water. The Cherokee people did not have alcohol to extract their medicines. This is a Cherokee medicine. So what I discovered is that, yes, as a tincture with the alcohol extract, it's very good for helping to treat lung infections, but it also, as a sun tea, can be used for the underlying grief. And when you do an extract, you use what's called a menstruum, that is a certain percentage of alcohol and water. So I'm just putting forth the idea that to have both gives you the more complete medicine of this plant. So it combines well with boneset and elderberry. And my mentor, Patricia Critzy Howell, put out a paper that I would be happy to share with you. It's called 3 Herbs for the Flu, but I'm going to go through them with you today. 3 herbs for the flu: boneset, elderberry, and usnea. So that's where I'm going to take us next. This is also local. It's a diaphoretic, which means it makes you sweat, which means it's working at the level of the surface immune system, which is also known as the innate immune system. And it also works at the level of the liver. So when you know, I haven't been sick in years, but if I start to feel like something's wanting to get me, one of the first things I do is I take a hot cup of diaphoretic tea, and it could be boneset, it could be chamomile, anything that's diaphoretic that makes you sweat. And I take that and I get in a hot bath, and I drink that hot tea in a hot bath. And normally it'll just move it out. I used to be married to a man who, if he felt like he was getting sick, he would go jogging so that he could sweat it out. But this is our surface immune system, and it actually works very well when we support it. This is a wonderful medicine for the flu because it eases the symptoms of body aches and fever. It clears the upper respiratory system of mucus and congestion. The American Herbal Pharmacopoeia claims it may be one of the most effective anti-influenza plants in the North American Materia Medica. I'm going to repeat that because this is the power of the medicines that we can have available to us. I had a girlfriend just make a whole bunch of tincture from this and give it to me from gathered just, you know, in the mountains just a little further up the road here. It didn't cost her anything. Well, the alcohol in the bottles. But the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia claims it may be one of the most effective anti-influenza plants in the North American Materia Medica. Why aren't we hearing about this from the mechanistic model? Because those reference points don't live within that box. That's why we have to start thinking in another model. This has even actually also been used as a quinine substitute. All right, let's go to the next plant, elderberry. This image that you're seeing, I got quite enamored with this plant a few years ago, and because it grows all around here. And of course, now it's very commonly known and very popular for as an antiviral. But what I did was I went out and I gathered it at different times of its phases as a flower and as a berry, and then I made this image that you see on your screen. I laid that on my scanner and scanned. You know, I laid the branches and the flower and the berry and the leaves, and then I scanned it, and then I mirrored that image. So I had a lot of fun making that beautiful image, and I just think it shows you how magical that plant is. Its system affinity is the immune system. The flower is used for the treatment of colds and flus, and as a standardized extract, it has an antiviral action against the flu virus. It reduces the duration and the symptoms. It's something you can use through the cold and flu season. I put it in my tea that I have every evening, or at the first sign of a viral infection. And if I just want to do a little plug for my blog right now. I have a blog that's wisdomoftheplantdevas.com. And if you go to that blog, I have 10 herbs for the flu and coronavirus, and this is one of them, so you can learn more about that. It's indicated for any mucus congestion of the upper respiratory tract, such as hay fever or sinus infections. It increases cytokine production, and that's probably too big of a conversation for me to get into right now, because we're talking about pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory. So a lot of plants are very intelligent. They know whether they need to increase that immune response or they need to downregulate that immune response. Astragalus, as an aside, which you'll also see in my blog, is one of the most intelligent plants for that. This one, though, however, can increase the cytokine production. So once you're well into an active infection, this is better for preventative and not something you want to take once you've moved into a feverish state. So it appears to strengthen the cell membranes to prevent virus penetration. So when I say as a preventative, this is actually keeping the virus from penetrating into cell membranes. And it does that by inhibiting the viral enzyme that weakens the membrane. All right, let's go to, let's see, we talked about the 3 herbs for the flu: boneset, usnea, and elderberry. Goldenrod. There's a song I sing about goldenrod. And not to be confused with ragweed, which blooms at the same time. And I just want to say that this North Carolina folk healer, Emma Dupree, we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to African-American healers for what they have brought us. Not only the wisdom, I got goosebumps, not only the wisdom of the plants, but the guidance of the ancestors. There's actually a lot more I could say about that. One of the herbs that they brought us was cottonroot bark. And, as a midwife, I am a protector of women and birth. But there are times when a pregnancy needs to be terminated. Women have always had the right to choose. I know I'm deviating a little bit here. Women have always had the right to choose. Why we ever thought we needed to have such a thing as a surgical abortion came through the mechanistic model, the patriarchal mechanistic model. Cottonroot bark cuts off the progesterone that is necessary to maintain a pregnancy. Simply using cottonroot bark can cause what's called a missed abortion or bring on your period, however you want to say that. And this was brought to us by the African slave women who didn't want to be raped and have their master's children. And I have used it very effectively in my practice. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the wisdom of these elders and the Native American elders and the African American healers that have brought us this knowledge because they have their feet on the earth. And this is what we need, is we need herbalists who have their feet on the earth. They're the ones who are in communication with these plants. Because the Western model wants to assimilate the Eastern model, or the mechanistic model wants to assimilate the energetic model, because there's profits to be made from that, you now have doctors that are wanting to recommend herbs, but they haven't, where did they learn that? They have to learn that from the herbalists who have their feet on the ground. And this kind of folk medicine that I'm talking about, it goes back centuries. And as an elderly woman, North Carolina folk healer Emma Dupree shared much of her knowledge with doctors and medical anthropologists who wanted to understand more about the medicinal properties of native plants. this is who they went to. If we lose our healers, if we lose our, our medicine people, this knowledge is in threat of being lost. So that's why I encourage all of you to just go out and learn one plant, because our medicine is never any further than we are right now. Just go out and learn about one plant that grows near you, because if you know one plant, then you have one powerful ally. So goldenrod, what else do I want to say about goldenrod? Well, you can see it has a system affinity for the urinary tract. So I have mostly used it for ragweed allergies. And I do have a post about, I think I have a post about that on my blog, and how you can start drinking that tea. You dry it, and then you save it in glass jars. And then the next season, if you're susceptible to allergies, you start drinking that tea like about a month before the ragweed season. And it can really help to reduce your allergy response. So anyway, it's another brilliant plant. Wild hydrangea. I have a post that I would like to invite you to read called Hunting Wild Hydrangea. It is so an anti-lithic, which is one of its actions. So let's talk about herbal actions. You've been seeing this on all the slides. We talked about system affinities, but now we have herbal actions. So plants are not only intelligent enough to go into a particular system and know what it's supposed to do, but they also have these very specific herbal actions which help, whether it's, anti-inflammatory, we all know that one, analgesic, it helps to relieve pain, diuretic, so it helps, the body to naturally, cleanse itself, to eliminate urine. And anti-lithic means, think of it as a stone breaker. So it helps to break up calculi in the system. So it removes gravelly deposits and it relieves pain. So it's really good for someone who is trying to pass kidney stones. It's also mostly thought of as a prostate herb. And this herb can help. A lot of older men are really suffering with prostatitis. And there's a protocol with this herb that I use, and it's on my blog, that can really help men to not have to suffer with that one. It's an understory shrub, and because it's a native, I've gotten to know it, a little bit more intimately. So when we talk about something like a prostate issue, the study of an imbalance in a person, it's called pathophysiology. And modern medicine studies pathophysiology from the narrow lens of the reductionist viewpoint. But because the medicines they use are also very narrow in action, it makes sense, right? If you're looking at something through a narrow reductionist viewpoint lens, then the medicine that you're going to develop is going to also target and be very narrow in its action. But you see this plant has 4 actions. Some of them have many actions. And so, herbalists have a more broad perspective because the plants they use are broad acting. And this is why we need the synergy of the whole plant. So herbal medicine being an energetic model, energetics is just another way of saying patterns of organization. And, the lens of Western medicine is treats symptoms, doesn't fit this model because we're looking at what are the patterns of imbalance, and we're going in and we're going to treat the cause rather than the symptom. So this broad energetic perspective or holistic view naturally leads us to search for patterns. And those are, patterns of imbalance, whether, the patterns of imbalance within our body mirror the patterns found in nature. So that could be, hot and cold, or dampness and dryness, or contraction and expansion. We're looking at how all those parameters come into play with an imbalance. And self-organization into ordered patterns is seen everywhere in nature. So when we just have that very limited view, where, you go to this specialist for this and this specialist for that and the other specialist for this, and that one doesn't know what the other one's doing and sends you back to the other specialist because they're not talking to each other. We don't have this in this energetic practice. All right. So studying and learning how to read the patterns, it helps us understand that healing takes place in the context of relationship. And plants are sentient beings that communicate through biochemistry. Like I said earlier, they're always reading our chemistry. And the understanding of this chemical language is just in its infancy. There is so much that we still have to learn. And you'll see me probably on about every blog post I write, I will say more research is needed. So I have more plants, but we've run out of time. So I would like to just open this up to, if Judy, you can help me with this. Let me, I'm going to unshare this because at the very end, after we take a few questions, I want to close with a song. So let me unshare. And does anyone have any thoughts or questions or feedback or areas of interest that they would like to?
I don't know if you can read some of the things that are in the chat, Thea, that might help.
Okay, let me pull that up. And let's see. Oh, Patricia, yes. Nice. Debbie, hi. Yeah, she was great. I'll just tell you a little story about Patricia. Is we were friends, and we would go hiking together, and which is, there's no better person to go hiking with than Patricia because she knows all the plants. And she started referring people to me from her practice in Atlanta for women's health because that wasn't her specialty. So she started referring people to me, and then she kept saying to me, you really ought to take my classes, like come do my program. And I'm like, nah, why do I need to do that? I'm already like hanging out with you, and you're referring people to me, and then my ego, was working on my book at the time, and then my ego said, "Whoa, you should take her class because maybe that will help you market your book, to a publisher, because then you'll be a certified herbalist or whatever." Well, her program changed my life, and it put me solidly back on the path of herbalism. And it helped me to see that my book was only a tool to get me into Patricia's class, because it was in her class that I learned 5-element theory, which I now teach online and have been for the last 12 years. And I started my own university called 5-Element Academy. Please check it out. You can get to it through my blog and wisdomoftheplantdavis.com. So I've developed 5-Element Academy to teach these concepts. And so Patricia, I love her. I love her so much. All right, let's see what else is up here. Okay, Carolyn Renee says, yes, astragalus and elderberry have been my healing companions. Beautiful. Really, two very good ones, mine too. Shout out African and African American healers, my great grands, aunties, and my mom, Lai Tahira. Woo! Praise the grandmothers and the ancestors. We couldn't do it without them. And they are informing us, they're behind us. They're standing behind us. I would have, sometimes at a birth, there would be a complication, and I would do something, and the midwife that was with me or the apprentice or whoever would say, "How did you know to do that?" And I'm like, I don't know. Because my body remembers, because it came through my mother, who came through her mother, who came through her mother, who came through her mother, all the way back to the beginning of time. This is the power and the knowledge that we have available to us. So Debbie says, thank you. I went from herbalism into midwifery. Nice. So I started with the herbalism, as a midwife because, and I just want to say that this was 45 years ago, 46 years ago, actually, that at that time, we did not carry Pitocin. We couldn't practice medicine without a license. We were lay midwives delivering babies at home. We didn't carry Pitocin. We didn't carry oxygen. We didn't carry, I mean, at the end of my practice, of course, I did all those things. I sutured and I carried all of that. But in the beginning, it was Susan Weed who taught the midwives the life-saving herbs to prevent hemorrhages, the list is very, very long. Life-saving herbs for women. So the herbs came into, so I got into midwifery, and then the herbs also came as a part of that practice. And then many years I went off and I toured on the road as a musician, and then came to the mountains, and then came back to the herbalism. So I love that connection of the herbalism and the midwifery. And you're still working as a home birth midwife here. Where is here, Debbie? You're a valuable resource. Oh my gosh. Bless you. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Yeah. Atlanta. Oh gosh. It's so good to know you and to have you here with us. So important, so needed. Right now, women are floundering. They're closing birth centers. They closed the one here in Asheville. Women don't want to go to the hospital to have their baby because of the current environment, and they are seeking. I'm attending a birth this month. I mean, they're really looking for help right now. So, yeah, Debbie, thank you. Another sister. Gosh, isn't this beautiful? Look at all these beautiful women. Wow. Yeah.
Hey, I very much concur with your concept that the whole plant really gives a lot of benefit that you don't see when you go in and isolate that particular active component. Um, when you are working with plants that come from different regions of the country, do you find any differences in how they act, or maybe some a little bit better than others, or have you noticed that?
Yes. Let me just give you a little example of something that I do. And then I'm going to answer that in kind of a roundabout way. But like with wild hydrangea, I ordered that from Herb Farm, which is in Oregon. But I have, and this is a great question. Thank you for asking it. But I have some that I made myself from the roots that I dug myself. But what I do is I take a drop of that and I add it to the other to remind it who it is. So yes, energetically, there can be a difference. And that's why I seek out my sources very, very carefully. So when someone comes to work with me, I'm always researching, because it changes from one year to the next. I mean, it just does, because
Yeah.
the availability changes. So, I might recommend OSHA to you this year from a company because it's, protected, and it's a powerful herb to have in your medicine chest right now with what we're going through. That, I might have recommended a different company last year than I would recommend to you this year. I currently get it from a very small producer in Flagstaff, Arizona. So, and they wildcraft it ethically. So it's very potent, and that's going to be very different than what I get from Herb Farm. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Cool. Well, thank you so much for letting me share all this with you. It's a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I want to close with a song, if I may. This was at Judy's request, and thank you for requesting this song, Judy. I'm going to screen share again and share my sound. And there's a story behind this song, and I think it's a good. Somebody said to me they felt like this would be a good song to come out of breath work to. So I think it'll be a good song for us to come out of my presentation to. But it was a channeling that a woman who's now a friend of mine channeled from Mother Mary. And when she shared the channeling with me, I'm hearing the song as she's saying it. And I said, that's a song. So too many synchronicities to talk about right now, but I'm going to share it with you from a site that you can go to and read some of that story. But I was working with some medicines that very heart, Mother Mary to me is a symbol of sovereignty. The virgin means whole unto herself, right? So that it came through that archetype of the Virgin Mother, whole unto herself. And then the way the song came, like immediately, like the next day. But one little piece I'll share with you is my herbal medicine apprentice, who you saw in the one of them, who you saw in the very beginning of the slideshow, Jamie, had sent me an elixir that she made of wild rose, from the wild roses that grew outside her cabin in Montana. And I had been taking some drops of that when this download was read to me. And so I was in this very rose heart opening space, and the next day the whole song downloaded. And so anyway, so this song is the result of that. And let me just, oops. Just have to get on the right screen here, sorry. Okay. All right, enjoy. And I'm going to mute out.
My dearest child, did you know you had wings? Did you know you could fly? Did you know you were birthed from angels on high? And every breath that you take is divine. Did you know your heart is made from mine? My dearest child, did you know I whisper love words in your ear? Did you know my presence has always been near? Do you know of your greatness? Do you know of your soul? Do you know you have always been perfect and whole? I am near, as close as your heart. Did you know I have been there from your very start? Did you know there is nothing you could ever do that would take my love away from you? his wonders I share here today. Then ask from your heart, and you'll hear my voice say, my dearest child, did you know you had wings? Did you know you could fly? Did you know you were birthed from angels on high? And every breath that you take is divine. Did you know your heart is made from
And so it is.
Thank you, dear Thea, for the depth and breadth of your relationship to our mother, and for sharing how we can weave and create and heal with her.
Yes, and I just want to say that that's my husband singing with me, who is your brother from another mother.
Yes, I seem to have unique relationships with the divine masculine in this group.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say quickly, if I can, thank you, Thea. You are a treasure. Thank you for all the wisdom that you carry, and I'm really blessed to know you. That's all.
So we are right on time. And we're going to take a 15-minute break. Do bring snacks or something back if you need to, but this next presentation is going to be both joyful, fun, and engaging. So Thea, thank you very, very, very much for the incredible presentation, and come back after taking a quick break and meet someone new to our community who will feel like an old friend.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody, when you come back, please make sure you've got a pencil, a piece of paper, and a felt tip pen.
Thank you, Cecile.
Thank you.